Welcome to MDS Conquer online course. I myself Dr. Usha, consultant author on test Team MDS Conquer, going to discuss regarding cephalometrics part 2. In the previous video, I have discussed regarding the landmarks and the various planes and questions regarding the landmarks and the planes. So this continuation of previous video, I am going to explain the various angles used in different analysis and the parameters of different skeletal, dental and soft tissue part and the case discussions including regarding this analysis and the angles. Orthodontic diagnosis composed of three parts. One is the skeletal, one is dental and another one is your soft tissue part. So, the information regarding your skeletal parameters, dental parameters and the soft tissue parameters to be included in your cephalometric examination too. These are the various analyses which are used in the cephalometric examination. Most of them contain both the skeletal and dental parameters, and the Holdaway soft tissue analysis gives the information regarding your soft tissue parameters. So there are some of the direct questions can be asked like Cox analysis was given by Burstone. Tweed's analysis include parameters like FMA, IMPA, FMIA like that. So at a UG level, the parameters of Steiners, Downs, Tweeds is sufficient and the important parameters of the other analysis to be known. So this video includes what all the important parameters in the exam point of view. So I am not going to discuss each and every analysis, but I am going to discuss the parameters which are critical for your proper diagnosis of different analysis. So here are the summary of different parameters. If we see, these are the skeletal parameters. Skeletal parameters means they can show an effect if there is an orthodontic or orthopedic tooth movement. So if we see, this is an SNA dental parameter, SNB dental parameter, because it is including the point A and the point B. But they can give the information regarding the anterior and posterior position of your maxilla and the mandible. So these are partially skeletal and partially dental parameters. Whereas if you see the J angle, it is a pure skeletal parameter showing the rotation of your maxilla. So direct questions like J angle is also known as angle of inclination. J angle determines the rotation of the maxilla. It cannot determine anything about mandible. Facial angle and angle of convexity can give you the information regarding the profile of your patient. So how to understand these parameters? If we see the SNA, in the exam point of view, they will give you like questions like a patient cephalometric examination showed an SNA value of 90 degrees. That means the mean value is 82 and the 90 degrees means increased SNA value. It shows that the maxilla is ahead of your mandible or it is a prognathic maxilla. We cannot compare with that of the mandible because the value of mandible related parameters is not discussed in your question. So you can go only to the prognathic mandible, maxilla. So whenever the SNA is increased, it leads to class 2, that is a forwardly positioned maxilla and an orthognathic mandible. If information regarding SNB, that is the mandible, is also given, then you can come into conclusion whether it is in a class 2 or a class 3. So normally with an increased SNA, it is class 2. With decreased SNA, it is class 3. If the SNB is increased, class 3, decreased, class 2. A and B, the difference between the SNA and SNB is A and B, that is 2 degrees. And also as a compensation of this, width appraisal is also done. A and B can be considered as a skeletal parameter, whereas the width appraisal can be considered as a dental parameter. So A and B means difference of SNA and SNB. If it is greater, it is class 2. If it is lesser, it is class 3. So some of the questions can be asked depending upon, they will give you A and B and they will give you either SNA or SNB and ask you the diagnosis. So such type of questions are included in this video. And next we are moving to facial angle and angle of convexity. They may directly ask you the direct values. So these parameters which are directly asked only included now. So facial angle is 88 degrees is average value. If it is increased, it is a class 3 case. If it is decreased, it is a class 2 case. And the angle of convexity is also frequently asked question. Both of these will show you. This is nothing but apog line. So both of these direct questions like what is the angle of convexity, and it is normally 0 degrees, and a minus value will show you normal profile. With an increased value, that means maxilla is ahead of mandible, a positive value, and a decreased value, that is in the more minus values, that is a mandible ahead of maxilla. And coming to the J angle or angle of inclination, the normal value is 85 degrees, it shows the rotation. So if it is increased, that is anti-inclination, that is forward rotation of your maxilla, decreased, that is downward rotation of your mandible. Okay, this is discussed later. So coming to the case patterns, the questions can be asked like this. A patient with a ANB of 6 degrees but with a reading of SNA 82. So if we see here ANB of 6 degrees, which is an abnormal case, ANB is increased, so normally we may go to class 2 condition, that means prognathic maxilla. But the other reading of SNA is showing a normal value, that means there is something problem with your mandible but not the maxilla. So orthognathic maxilla and a retrognathic mandible combination may give you a ANB value of 6 degrees. So here the SNB may be around 76 degrees, so the difference is 6 degrees, positive degrees. So the condition here is orthognathic maxilla and retrognathic mandible. Again, this may be also a class 2 condition. It's not necessarily class 2 means a prognathic maxilla. Okay, the difference of A and B will determine whether it is a class 2 or a class 3 case. Moving on to the next question. When maxilla is anti-inclined, yes. So the answer for this is forward rotation of the maxilla. This I am going to explain with this picture. So what do you mean by J angle or angle of convexity? So this is the plane, SN plane. Okay, perpendiculars are dropped from the SN plane, and this is the pre-treatment. Let's take pre-treatment. Palatal plane starting from the ANS to PNS and intersecting the perpendiculars which are dropped. And this is post-treatment rotated maxilla. Here the maxilla is here, now the maxilla is here. Okay, so here because of the anti-inclination, forward rotation of maxilla, the angle is increased. Here the downward rotation of the maxilla angle is decreased. So J angle implies your rotation of the maxilla. It is increased means anti-inclined. It is decreased means retro-inclined. Okay. So increased in the case of the open bite, decreased in the case of the deep bite. So you may get a doubt. There is an anterior open bite. Not only with only maxilla anti-inclined, anterior open bite may not occur. Okay, and patient exhibit horizontal growth pattern. No, growth patterns normally they are determined by the inclination of your mandibles, not solely dependent on maxilla, but the worsening of the horizontal growth pattern or vertical growth pattern can also be done by rotations of maxilla too. Then they can be corrected only by the surgical procedures but not through orthodontic or orthopedic procedures. So the best answer for this question is your forward rotation of the maxilla. Because only condition maxilla is anti-inclined is given in the question, not including other parameters to come to a conclusion of anterior open bite or a horizontal growth pattern. Because these are multifactorial, whereas the answer for the forward rotation of the maxilla directly implies an anti-inclined maxilla. So you have to come to a conclusion like this. And there is a deep bite? No. When the maxilla is anti-inclined, the deep bite cannot occur. Okay. Next question. A cephalogram of 10 years old child shows A and B of -4 degrees and a facial angle of 98 degrees. If we see here the facial angle, it is highly increased. The profile is class 3 case and A and B is also supporting a class 3 case. So the answer is true class 3. It is not maxillary hypoplasia because the facial angle and the A and B angle are towards class 3. We can go to true class 3 case. Profile of the patient can be assessed through which parameter? As I already discussed, it can be assessed through the angle of convexity and also the facial angle. J angle can be used for assessment of your rotations of the maxilla. Zerabak ratio. Yes, Zerabak ratio can be used to assess the growth pattern, the anterior and posterior facial heights, but not the profile. Mandibular plane angle, again the growth pattern. So, the profile of the patient is an antero-posterior jaw discrepancy, that is in the sagittal direction. Whereas the J angle, Zerabak ratio and mandibular plane, these three are your vertical plane discrepancies, can be described by these three angles. So sometimes the questions can be asked like this: which parameter can give you the information regarding sagittal jaw discrepancy? Angle of convexity. Okay, that is the antero-posterior. So these are the parameters. Earlier I discussed some parameters which are skeletal parameters regarding the sagittal discrepancy. Now I am discussing regarding the vertical and horizontal growth patterns. Depending upon that, whether a vertical growth pattern or a horizontal growth pattern, long face syndrome or a short face, forward direction or a backward direction of the mandible, all these are interlinked, which may result in open bite or a deep bite. So the cephalometric parameters, like the important parameter is your mandibular plane angle. Mandibular plane angle means the angle between your SN plane or FH plane, which are commonly used reference planes, and mandibular plane. And in different analysis, different mandibular planes are taken as a reference planes. So it was discussed in the last video. If you see the Steenus analysis, it is between the gonion and gnathion. If it is a Downs analysis, it is between gonion and a menton. And if it is a Tweed's analysis, it is the tangent of lower border of the mandible. So the angle between your FH plane and any of these three planes may give you the mandibular plane angle. The normal value is 32 degrees. Normally the questions include the increased mandibular plane angle or decreased mandibular plane angle. So what will be the growth pattern like that? And they won't ask you regarding the mean value, but it is important to note the mean values of the parameters which I discussed in this video. At least 20 parameters will be there. You have to know these mean values. It will be very easy for you. And revise the cephalometrics mean values and understand the concept behind this. Definitely the case based questions can be easily answered. So if it is an increased mandibular plane angle, that means the mandibular plane is downward, mandible is rotating downward, vertical growth pattern. Vertical growth pattern means long face syndrome can occur. Whenever there is an increased mandibular plane, long face syndrome may occur and also open bite may also be occur. If it is decreased, horizontal growth pattern, short face may occur and also deep bite. Directly, this is an independent factor. If there is an increased mandibular plane angle, definitely there is a vertical growth, and decreased mandibular plane angle, there is a horizontal growth. Next comes your occlusal plane angle, that is the angle between your mandibular plane, that is the angle between your occlusal plane and FH plane. If you see, it is of 14.5 degrees. Again, this is also orientation. If it is increased vertical growth, if it is decreased horizontal growth. These are all will follow the same mandibular plane. FMA. In the Tweed's analysis, FMA, angle between your mandibular plane and FH plane, it is of 25 degrees. Increased is the vertical growth pattern, decreased is your horizontal growth pattern. Next comes your Jarabak ratio. Here, Jarabak ratio is described the facial heights, anterior facial height and posterior facial height. So, posterior facial height divided by anterior facial height into 100, the ratio is 65. If it is the value is greater than 65, that means around 70-75 shows a horizontal growth pattern. That means the posterior height is more than the anterior heights. This may seen as a mandibular plane angle will be decreased in the case of increased Jarabak ratio. And values lesser than 65 shows vertical growth. And next concept is your gonial angle, saddle angle. Gonial angle and saddle angle, articular angle, these are described in last video as the posterior angles. So these also shows the vertical pattern or the horizontal pattern. Gonial angle if it is increased, vertical pattern. Gonial angle if it is decreased, horizontal growth pattern. This is also similar to your mandibular plane, but is discussed in Rakosi's functional examination analysis. So another name is given as a gonial angle. So the measurement is between your articular, gonion and the gnathion. So the normal angle is your 128 degrees. And moving on to the saddle angle. Saddle angle is between your sella, articular and gonion. So this will, nasion, sella and articular. So this is the angle showing the position of your mandible with respect to the cranial base. So whether it is forwardly positioned or backwardly positioned is explained by the saddle angle. It is an important angle in the case of functional examination. So if the saddle angle is very high, that means the mandible is already positioned very backward. We cannot bring the mandible forward if the saddle angle is very high, because with proportion to the cranial base it is positioned backward. So the use of functional appliances is not sufficient in such cases with a high saddle angle cases. So increased saddle angle shows backward position of the mandible, a poor prognosis for the functional appliances, and decreased saddle angle is a forward position. That means in the class 3 cases with respect to cranial base they are forwardly positioned. So any setback surgical procedures also may get severe relapse in such conditions. Next, moving on to the y-axis, in your Downs analysis, it is a growth axis. It will show the growth related to your mandible. So it is around 59 degrees. Backward increased angle means backward rotation of the mandible, again the vertical growth pattern, and decreased is the forward rotation of the mandible, again the horizontal growth pattern. And the questions mostly, when we come to the case based questions, mostly these parameters important, and these parameters, on basing on these parameters only numerous questions can be asked. So the next questions regarding those parameters will be like this. Skeletal open bite on cephalogram is seen as. So there are multiple factors influencing the open bite, which is especially the skeletal one. That means vertical growth pattern, strong vertical growth pattern will lead to skeletal open bite. So let's see what are the parameters which can be causing skeletal open bite. Increased mandibular plane angle, yes, it is a strong indication of your vertical growth pattern. Increased gonial angle, yes, again backward rotation of your mandible showing vertical growth pattern. Decreased Jarabak ratio, Jarabak ratio is decreased, that means the anterior facial height is greater than posterior facial height. Yes, anterior facial height is greater, so the open bite condition is there. Increased anterior facial height, yes, this is a conclusion. Because of this increased anterior facial height only, there is a decreased Jarabak ratio. All are strong features of your vertical growth patterns which are summarized in one place. Increased J angle, that means an anti-inclined maxilla. That means with a downward rotation of the mandible, a synergistic forward rotation of maxilla is also there. Because of that, that means the problem is in both maxilla and mandible for a strong skeletal open bite condition. And decreased FMA, no, FMA will also be increased. So the answer for this includes A, B, C, D, E, but not F. So sometimes the questions can be asked like this. Which all features are included? Option A, they may give you a jumbling order of A, B, A to E. Okay, so you have to eliminate decreased FMA and all other 5 features which are the features of both maxilla and mandible causing skeletal open bite on cephalogram. Okay. The next question includes a patient of age 10 years and incompetent lips. So these questions are nothing but your diagnosis. They are already diagnosed. They are asking your cephalometric examination. So see here, a patient of age 10 years with incompetent lips. So this is a part of your soft tissue. Complaints of forwardly placed upper anterior tooth, that is the maxilla is ahead. His cephalometric value showed SNA of 88. SNA means maxilla is prognathic. FMA of 30 degrees. Okay, so the mandibular rotation, if it should be of around 25 degrees, but a vertical pattern is seen, and a and B of 6 degrees. So A and B of 6 means which is a plus point to your class 2. What is the diagnosis? So because of the SNA and A and B, we can tell whether it is a class 2 or a class 3. Because of the FMA, we can tell whether it is a vertical or a horizontal growth pattern. So the answer will be skeletal class 2 with a vertical growth pattern because of the increased FMA. So the questions can be like this, a combination of the parameters. So as I summarized in previous tables, if you are aware of those particular parameters, it will be easy for you to come to one conclusion. So how to answer in 3 planes you have to see. Sagittally, SNA, SNB, ANB, vertically, FMA, mandibular plane angle, gonial angle. So what is the pattern, growth pattern, vertical or a horizontal, anterior deep bite or open bite, like that. So if you divide the question into 2 components, whether it is of maxilla or a mandible, whether it is anteriorly or posteriorly like class 2 or class 3, prognathic or retrognathic, whether it is horizontal or vertical. So your thinking or thought process should be in this manner to answer the case based questions in orthodontics. Then it will be very easy for you to answer each and every question which you face in your competitive examinations. So next, moving on to the next parameters. These parameters are dental parameters, purely dental parameters. So the parameters like upper incisor to NA. So this indicates the position of your upper maxillary anteriors. It is of 22 degrees and 4 mm is a linear measurement. That means they are proclined or forwardly placed. So because of this parameter, we can come to one conclusion whether it is div 1 or div 2 in the case of class 2, whether they are proclined or retroclined. So skeletal class 2 division 1 malocclusion with a proclined maxillary incisors. To come to this sentence, we need parameters like SNA, which is higher value of 88 degrees, and upper incisor to NA of value 28 or 29 degrees, because greater than 22 degrees, then only we can come to that sentence. If it is a lesser side, that means SNA of 76, upper incisor to NA of 18 degrees, that means the maxilla is retrognathic and the incisors are retroclined or backwardly positioned. So like this, these parameters are useful for the orthodontic diagnosis. So coming to the lower incisor to NA, it should be of 25 degrees and 4 mm. How they are proclined if it is greater value around 30 degrees, and they are forwardly placed because of the linear measurement. Retroclined if it is a lesser value, and backwardly placed, linear measurement. Okay, these are self-understanding parameters. And the interincisal angle, the angle between the long axis of your upper incisor and the long axis of your lower incisor, it should be of 131 degrees. Okay, so many questions can be asked regarding this interincisal angle. If the angle is 120 degrees, that means the angle is decreased. That means the intersection point is lesser when they are retroclined. So the answer, decrease means they are proclined. Both are proclined. So the long axis will come together. So the angle will be decreased. If the angle is increased, that means they are straight to each other. So they are retroclined. So the angle is increased. And the next important question they may ask you regarding the IMPA, that is interincisal mandibular plane angle. It should be of 90 degrees, and this is our American values. So Indian value, it can be around 100 degrees, then it is upright in the position to the basal bone of the mandible. Okay, if it is greater, it is proclined. If it is lesser, it is retroclined. So many of the case based questions can be basing on interincisal angle and IMPA. So this is the interincisal angle, the long axis of the maxillary incisors and mandibular incisors. The angle between the long axis is measured. It can be of 125 to 135. In the case when they are retroclined or when they are upright, the angle will be increased. Okay, and in the case where they are proclined, the angle will be decreased. So this is the class 2 div 2 condition where they are very much retroclined, then the interincisal angle is increased. So the questions regarding the interincisal angle in class 2 div 2 can be, they may be asking like that. Okay, whereas it is decreased in the cases of class 2 div 1 or bimaxillary protrusion, where the proclined upper and lower incisors are seen. Okay, so interincisal angle of 100 degrees indicates, 100 degrees means base value they are taking as a 90 degrees. So it indicates increased value, that means the retroclined incisors. So the answer is retroclined incisors. Okay, and here I want to add a point. The interincisal angle of Indians, if they ask you, particularly Indians, means go for 100 degrees. That is the correct answer. Okay, these are all the values or the cephalometric norms taken from Caucasians, and this is not in Indian population normal values. So in common, if they ask interincisal angle of 100 degrees means it indicates a retroclined incisors. If they particularly mention regarding the Indian population, the normal value is 100. Okay. Next we are moving to y-axis is used to analyze. It is already discussed previously, parameter. So y-axis is used to analyze the mandibular growth. So what is the y-axis? It is the angle between FH plane and sella to gnathon. So this is the inferior angle. So the parameters are present on the mandible. It can show only the effect of mandible. So with the options like maxillary and maxillary mandibular growth and to design appliance can be eliminated. Okay. So the answer is mandibular growth. So if it is increased, as I already discussed, it is a vertical growth pattern. If it is decreased, that means towards the SN plane, it is a horizontal growth pattern. So this is also known as growth axis. So the questions can be asked like growth axis, the points used in the growth axis, gnathon, sella, okay, and in the rickets analysis from the PTM also they will draw a line to the gnathon and construct the growth axis. That is also the y-axis only. Okay, so the 2 points are used. One is from sella to gnathon or one is from PTM to gnathon. The average value is 59 degrees. Greater value shows the vertical growth pattern, lesser value shows horizontal growth pattern. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following cephalometric parameter is used to diagnose a long face syndrome? Again they are asking a question regarding the vertical pattern. So the Zerabak ratio, yes, it indicates a vertical pattern. Saddle angle, no, it indicates the position of the mandible in an anterior-posterior direction. SNA, it indicates the position of the maxilla in anterior-posterior direction. SNB, it indicates the position of the mandible in the anterior-posterior direction. So they are asking a vertical problem. So the vertical parameter in the 4 is Zerabak ratio. So the answer is Zerabak ratio. It's already discussed in the table, but detailed information regarding Zerabak is important because most of the questions will come from the Zerabak ratio. So it is represented as posterior facial height into 100 by anterior facial height. That is posterior facial height by anterior facial height into 100. So this is a direct formula. You have to know it. And this ratio should be, normal value is 65 degrees. If it is greater, a horizontal growth pattern. If it is lesser, it is a vertical growth pattern. So based on that also they may ask you questions. So this is the Zerabak ratio. So the posterior facial height is based on from the sella to gonion. Anterior facial height is from nasion to menton. So these planes are constructed and the measurement of the anterior and posterior facial height are placed in this formula, and the answer should be equal to 65 in the average face. If it is greater, it is a short face. That means if the Zerabak ratio is 70, it indicates a short face. That means the posterior facial height is higher, anterior facial height is lower. Okay. Mandibular inclination is represented by, again the vertical growth pattern they are asking. Proportion of posterior and anterior facial heights, that is nothing but your Zerabak ratio. Lower gonial angle, mandibular inclination, gonial angle, yes, they are not mentioning whether high or low, they are asking only regarding the mandibular inclination. Yes, gonial angle will represent the vertical growth pattern. Inclination of lower border of the mandible, yes, basing on this the mandibular plane angle we can give. So the mandibular inclination is represented by all of the above. Zerabak ratio will also show you the vertical pattern. So we can easily understand whether the mandible is growing downward direction or a forward direction. So the answer for this is all of the above. A steep mandibular plane angle correlates with short anterior facial height with anterior open bite malocclusion, long anterior facial height with anterior deep bite malocclusion, short posterior facial height with anterior open bite malocclusion, long posterior facial height with anterior deep bite malocclusion. See, some of the questions can be asked and the options can be little bit confusing like this. Then clear of all the options first. Just read them. Okay. So the steep mandibular plane angle, that means it is a vertical growth pattern. We know. A steep mandibular plane angle means vertical growth pattern. That means it is already discussed a long anterior facial height. So see the first options. Long anterior facial height is seen only in the B option. So yes, long anterior facial height. So next jump into another parameter, that is your open bite or a deep bite. Definitely it will be a open bite. So long anterior facial height with an anterior open bite malocclusion is the correct answer. Okay. So all the 4 options are wrong here. So they may give you options and they may ask you whether in this question answer is there or not. That means they may give you all these options. Again the options may be present. None of the above. Okay. So a steep mandibular plane angle means long anterior facial height. Only the first option is correct. And with the anterior deep bite malocclusion, when the anterior facial height is higher, it cannot be with the anterior deep bite. It can be of anterior open bite. Okay. So the answer for the steep mandibular plane angle is long anterior facial height with anterior open bite malocclusion, not deep bite malocclusion. Okay. Next, increase in the sum of posterior angles indicate. So, what are the posterior angles? Saddle angle, gonial angle, articular angle. These posterior angles sum should be equal to 396 degrees. If it is greater, that means it is a vertical growth pattern and it is a poor prognosis for functional appliances. So, increase in the sum of posterior angles indicates long face syndrome? Yes. Backward rotation of the mandible? Yes. It is also vertical growth pattern. Vertical growth pattern? Yes. Increased anterior facial height? Yes. Backward position of the mandible? Yes. So, all these 5 features are indicated if there is a sum of posterior angles is increased. Backward position of the mandible shows there is a larger saddle angle. Vertical growth pattern shows there is a larger gonial angle. Backward rotation of the mandible shows there is a larger articular angle. Okay. So, these are the posterior angles. Angle 1, that is from the nasion to sella, from the sella to articular, is your saddle angle. So, this shows the relation between your cranial base, anterior cranial base and the mandible. How the mandible is related to your cranial base. So, whether it is positioned backward, then the angle will be greater. If it is positioned forward, then the angle will be lesser. Next comes your articular angle. So, angle between sella, articular and gonion. So, this is your articular angle. So, because of the opening and closing of your mandible, the articular angle will be increased or decreased. If it is increased, it shows a vertical growth pattern. If it is decreased, it shows horizontal growth pattern. Likewise, your gonion, the angle between articular, gonion and menton gives your gonial angle. It also shows your vertical and horizontal growth pattern depending upon the rotation of your mandible. So, all the 3 angles sum should be 396 degrees. If it is greater, that means the position of the mandible is backward and vertical opening of your mandible. So, the options like long face syndrome, backward rotation, vertical growth pattern, increased anterior facial height, backward position of the mandible, skeletal open bite, all can be included if there is an increase in the sum of posterior angles. This is a parameter, one of the parameter in your functional analysis, Rakosi functional analysis, okay, and important for your functional appliances examination, okay, in the cephalometric examination to decide which appliance or whether we can give functional appliance or not. The important parameters are these posterior angles. Which of the following angles do not change by orthodontic treatment? So, the questions can be asked like this. So, if we see the A and B, orthodontic treatment means dental movements. Okay. So, A and B, yes, point A and point B can be affected because of the orthodontic therapy, SNA, SNB. So, we can eliminate all the three. And if we see the saddle angle, this is the saddle angle. The parameters like nasion, sella and articular, these cannot be affected by orthodontic tooth movement. So, the angle cannot be affected by orthodontic tooth movement is your saddle angle. Okay. So, likewise we have to understand. So, if we know the knowledge of landmarks, whether it is a skeletal landmark or a dental landmark, it can be affected by orthodontic treatment or orthopedic or functional appliances or surgical. Likewise, we can divide easily. So, the sound knowledge of each and every landmark is important. Okay. Next, which of the following angles can be influenced by orthodontic or orthopedic therapy? So, which can be influenced by, they are asking. So, saddle angle, gonial angle, articular angle, base plane angle. So, orthodontic or orthopedic if we see. So, the answer is articular angle. Why? Because see, the points like gonial angle and base plane angle and the saddle angle, all these are related because of your skeletal parameters that is present on the landmarks present on your mandible and the cranial base. Coming to articular angle, the point is in your condyle. Okay, the point of intersection of your condyle and the posterior cranial base is your articular. That is a constructive landmark. So whenever there is a dental or orthodontic or orthopedic therapy, because of changes in the occlusion, the changes in the condyle may arise. Because of that changes, the articular angle can be changed. So if there is an extraction protocol and retraction happens, because of that, there will be adaptation of your condyle. So the point articular can be changed. So they can be articular angle changes. If we see the gonial angle, gonion should be changed. Mandible menton should be changed. Then only the angle between the articular gonion and menton can be changed. But whereas in the articular, because of the changes in the adaptation of the condyle, we can easily see the changes because of orthodontic or orthopedic therapy. So the answer is articular angle. Okay. Which was the first cephalometric analysis to emphasize horizontal relationships and interaction between vertical and horizontal proportions? So here this is a direct question, you have to know. The first analysis given on the proportions is your Sassoni's analysis. This is the first analysis, and which is discussing regarding the growth patterns, how the open bite and deep bite in a skeletal terms can be explained. These all done by the Sassoni analysis. What is Sassoni analysis? So there are 6 horizontal planes which are drawn. So these represent the anterior cranial base, and this line represents your Nasion plane, and this is your palatal plane, occlusal plane, mandibular plane, and this is your posterior border of the ramal plane. Because of all this, these all should be converging at an indefinite point in a normal conditions, and if there is a diversion in the anterior part, it leads to skeletal open bite, and if it is a diversion in the posterior part, it leads to skeletal deep bite. So likewise, a poor man's cephalometric index is Sassoni analysis. We can visualize on the X-ray all these horizontal planes and give a brief diagnosis part whether it is a skeletal problem or a dental problem. If these horizontal lines are diversifying in the anterior part, it is a skeletal open bite, and correction is little bit difficult and requires surgical procedures. Okay. So the information like how many horizontal planes are used in Sassoni analysis? 6. What are they? Mandibular occlusal plane, palatal plane, anterior cranial base or basal plane OS, anterior cranial based plane, ramal plane RX. So this is the OS, anterior cranial base, and this is FH plane, like that. Okay, FH plane. So SN plane, FH plane, palatal plane, occlusal plane, mandibular plane, and ramal plane. These 6 planes will divide the face into 5 proportions and considered into horizontal and vertical proportions, whether the vertical growth pattern or horizontal growth pattern is observed in the patient. Okay. So the questions on the Sassoni analysis can be asked like this. And the next analysis is your McNamara analysis. So they may ask you what are the components involved in McNamara analysis, or the only analysis where the airway is included is. They may question you like Rakosi, Ricketts, McNamara, Cox. The answer is McNamara. Okay. The upper airway and the lower airway, 2 components are involved in this, and sound knowledge of only the components is enough for you. No need to deep discussion of different parameters used in McNamara analysis, like that they may not ask you. So, and the case based questions also may not come. Only the questions parameters which are already discussed, they are mostly included in your case based questions presentations. Okay. So you have to know the different relations, like what is the relation of maxilla to the cranial base, mandible to the cranial base, maxilla to the mandible, dentition and airway. These are done as a part of your surgical procedures. So how the surgery is affecting the other component relations can be easily understood by McNamara, Ricketts, Cox analysis, like that. Okay. So the next important point, which is little bit higher than your UG level, I am going now. So the Steenis compromise is done. So we all know that when the A and B is higher, it is a class 2. A and B is lower, it is a class 3. But sometimes, in some cases, we observe that though maxilla and mandible are either prognathic or retrognathic, the compensation can be done by the arrangement of your dentition. That is nothing but your camouflage. So how that camouflage can be done? At what position of your upper and lower incisors the prognathic or a retrognathic mandible can be camouflaged? That is discussed by Steiner, and that is known as Steiner's compromise. So it is done when the A and B difference is more than 2 degrees. Okay, the answer is when the A and B difference is more than 2 degrees, Steiner's compromise is done. So this is a picture representing the Steiner's compromise. So normally in a normal angle of 2 degrees is the A and B 2 degrees. So then the position of your upper incisor to NA 22 degrees angle and a 4 mm position, whereas the lower incisor should be at an angle of 25 degrees and a 4 mm forwardly position. So with this, the normal orthognathic maxilla and mandible. First suppose the A and B is 4 degrees, either because of the complaint of maxilla or a mandible. Then because of the orthodontic therapy, if we arrange the upper incisor at an angle of 20 degrees and only 2 mm position linear measurement, and lower incisor at a 27 degrees and a 4.5 mm of linear position, then they may appear as a normal occlusion irrespective of your skeletal discrepancy. So a normal 2 mm is the normal A and B value. So plus or minus 2 mm can be compensated with these dental corrections. So these are dental corrections. So the Steiner's compromise, if the A and B angle is minus 4, then we have to arrange the upper incisor at a 28 degrees angulation. Okay. So it consists of, Steiner's compromise consists of A and B part, that is whether 4, 2, 0, this is the A and B angle. Okay. So this component is your upper incisor to NA value, angulation value. This is your linear measurement value. This is the lower incisor angulation value, linear measurement value. So just a brief idea that whether Steiner's compromise is done for what? For differences in your A and B value. That much information is sufficient. No need to memorize all these values and all. Just for your understanding, I just kept this picture. Next, going to the question. Most suitable analysis for checking the changes before and after the myofunctional therapy. Ricketts growth prediction, template analysis, pitchfork analysis, Burstone analysis. It is answer is pitchfork analysis. I have already discussed in your functional appliances video. To check before and after myofunctional therapy, pitchfork analysis is used. Okay. For the diagnosis, Ricketts and Rakosis analysis are used for the diagnosis whether the appliance can be given or not. So this is the pitchfork analysis. Okay, just a picture is sufficient, don't go in detail. And some of the direct questions can be asked, like mention the anterior posterior analysis. So here is a list of lateral cephalogram analysis, and here is the anterior posterior analysis. That is nothing but lateral cephalogram. Because of the orientation of the patient's head, the X-ray tube will pass from the side of the patient, either left side or right side. Whereas here the X-ray tube will pass from the posterior aspect of the patient. So it is known as anterior posterior analysis. So these are used for measuring the asymmetry conditions, whether the mandible is deviated or not, or the asymmetry in the zygoma region, in the eye region and all. So these are the various analysis used. So the posterior anterior analysis and the lateral cephalogram analysis, you have to just memorize this AP analysis, so you can answer the direct bits like which of the following is a anterior posterior analysis, which of the following is a lateral cephalogram analysis, like that. Okay. So the questions can be asked like this. Frontal cephalometry analysis is used for symmetry of dentofacial components. Yes. To make differential diagnosis in case of lateral mandibular deviation and midline tooth deviation. Yes. To determine the thickness of the rami. Yes. So Frontal cephalometry, that is your anteroposterior analysis, can evaluate both the skeletal parameters and also the dental parameters. Okay. Next, the angle between mandibular plane and the palatal plane is low, indicating that means the maxilla is rotating downwards, mandible is rotating upwards. Here, the planes are defined here. So, it is a skeletal deep bite condition. So, the mandibular plane and palatal plane is low. So, angle between the mandibular plane and palatal plane is low in the case of skeletal deep bite. If it is high, it is known as skeletal open bite. So, we all know that mandibular plane can be considered as a tangent of lower border, and palatal plane is nothing but a line between the ANS and PNS. Okay. So, the questions can be asked irrespective of the value. Sometimes they may give you values, sometimes they may ask you like this. So, the next question, considering the growth of the face in all the three planes, growth ceases last in which direction? So, these are from introductory part of your cephalometrics. So, the last direction in which the growth stops is your vertical direction. So, how to remember this? So, if you see any child or an infant, the transverse width, there will be large face, okay? But if you see a person of 50 years or 60 years, vertically, it will be like an egg, oval shape. So the last condition is vertical. The first condition is transverse. The width is determined in your infant stage only, whereas the length will be determined after cessation of the growth, that is around 20 or 25 years. Okay, so like this you can think. First one, in infant, transverse width. So the first thing to stop in three planes of the growth is transverse, and the last one which will stop is vertical. The first one is transverse, last one is vertical, and in between the sagittal. Done. Next, so some of the out of box questions like Z angle they may give you. This is a soft tissue angle. If you see here, from the porion to the midpoint of the nose to the highest point on your chin, the angle between is known as Z angle. It is given by Merrifield. Okay, this line is also known as Z line. This is the deepest portion of the nose slope. Okay, so this gives you the information regarding maxillary incisor position, because it gives the support to your upper lip. Okay, this is a soft tissue parameter and it is given by Merrifield, and the normal value ranges between 75 to 78 degrees. Okay, so this ends your cephalometrics, orthodontic cephalometrics. So I gave a brief information regarding all the difficult points of landmarks, planes, angles, and the case-based questions. This much of preparation is sufficient for your competitive examinations, and the thought process which I included, you have to inculcate in yourself by repeated revisions on the orthodontic cephalometrics, and the mean values you have to memorize it. As I already said, keep a short notes for the memory based questions, revise. Okay, so here the success is where preparation and opportunity meet. So this is the time of preparation. Prepare well, do hard work. Definitely a best opportunity will come and your dreams will be fulfilled. Thank you.